episode 3 of Our Identity, the podcast. I'm your host, Tokyo Sharif, and this is my guest,
Augy Dangerfield.
All right, so let's get into it a little bit. We're going to talk about your life story, figure out who you are, what you are, where you're from, and really what makes you yourself, okay? So kind of get us going of how we met and how long we've known each other for.
All right. I think it's been maybe a few weeks. And
I'd say a week or so. Yeah.
Yeah, so just a week or so, we met on a friendship app, as that's 2021's thing now.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, Bumble has like a BFFs version to meet friends, and so him and I met through that about a week ago when we sat down and kind of figured out, if we're actually cool or not. And you seemed fine, and you were willing to do this, so I was like, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's important to, however you need to express yourself and whatever channels you use, I think being supportive of that is like super important. And, if I could be musical or could dance or do anything like that or like paint, I would hope that people around me would be supportive.
Yeah. No, I definitely do appreciate the support that you've given me, watching the first few episodes and having all the positive feedback that you did. So let's kind of like take a dive into who you are as a person.
Okay.
So obviously you introduced yourself, right? So your name is?
So my name is Augy. I actually have a dual thing. So I am called Carlos by my family.
Okay.
And so there's that. And then I go by Augy myself, and that's with my friends and my chosen family.
Okay. So my question to you is what is your legal name? Is it
that
Carlos?
would be Carlos.
Okay, so your actual name is Carlos, but you go by Augy.
Yep.
And so how did you choose that name?
Ironically, it was my confirmation name back in the day, and it just kind of stuck.
Okay.
And the story of St. Augustine was very parallel to my own, and so I really connected with that.
Okay.
And I think the fact that it was an identity or a part of myself that I had chosen,
Right.
what kind of helped to cement that.
Okay. So that's interesting because obviously what you like to be called or what your name is definitely shapes your identity, because that's what you respond to, what you talk to, and stuff like that. So that's interesting. What part of St. Augustine did you spoke to you?
So at the time, the story of St. Augustine was that he was pagan, and that he had some family members like Saint Monica, who was, I believe, his mother, who had prayed for his salvation. And so one day as he walked past the church, he heard them singing hymns,
Right.
and it intrigued him, and so he went in, and then as he was exposed to the word, then he converted from paganism to Catholicism.
Okay.
And then he became a scholar for the church.
Okay.
And he kind of just ran with that. So
Okay.
over time, that's what he's known for, is to be a scholar.
Okay. Gotcha.
And for me, it was a very similar experience, but ironically, it's my cousin who's her confirmation name is Monica.
Oh.
So it was she was the sponsor for my confirmation.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a dual relationship with that.
Okay.
And at the same time, I was also pagan and had converted to Catholicism later.
So you sort of saw the parallels in that story and identified with that yourself.
Yep.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And obviously this is all about identity, and so that is a great story. Tell us a little bit about what your ethnicity is.
So I am Black and Puerto Rican. My father is Black and my mother is Puerto Rican.
Okay, where were you born?
I was born in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
I was raised primarily by my mother, back and forth from the city to Texas.
Okay. What part of Texas?
Kaufman. It's a small town outside of Dallas.
Okay, gotcha. What do you call home?
Still working on that, but
Yeah.
right now I feel like this is home.
Feel
DC
like
is home.
You call DC home?
Yeah.
And how long have you been living here in DC?
Almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in September.
Okay. So about a year and a half right now.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But like after 2020, it feels like I've been here for like 10 years.
Yeah. No, I got you. Okay, cool. So I guess part of your identity is you're black on one side and you're Puerto Rican on the other side. Are there days that you pick and choose which one to be, or what do you identify with in terms of race?
So when I was younger, I didn't always know I was black.
Right.
So I didn't find my biological father until I was like 11 or 12.
Okay.
So before that, it was just an assumption that I was just Puerto Rican.
Gotcha.
And so that's how I grew up.
Okay.
And it wasn't until later on that I found like who my father was, and then that I had this entirely other family and other identity to explore.
Okay. And how did you first, take that in?
Very negatively, actually.
It was a shock to you?
Not only was it a shock, but the way that I was raised with that family was they were just, they were pretty much racist. Like,
Okay.
there's no two ways about it. Like,
Okay.
and so it was always like this. I feel like my identity as a whole is duality. It's all about duality.
Okay.
And so when I first started to explore this racial identity, I had that internal conflict of, well, the things that I was raised to believe versus who I am are very different.
Right.
So if you believe of these stereotypes of black people, but I am black, then how does that even work, and what does that even mean? So
okay.
So and it also opened up my eyes to being able to see black people in general in a different light.
Okay.
Than what I was used to and how I was raised before that time.
Gotcha. So one thing that you touched on is this idea of duality, and that's something that I'm also trying to explore right now, because all about this identity stuff, where the duality of the concept is we're all different, but we're all the same. Like, you and I come from very different backgrounds, and yet you and I are both the same, right? We have a lot more things in common than we do differently. And so we talked a little bit about who you are, what you are. Where do you consider yourself to be at home? Like you said, here in DC, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So home for me here in this place is like, it's where I can be myself, and I can have like a fluctuating identity of like whatever, where like this Hispanic or black, hell, gay, straight, pan, whatever it may be. Like, I can be whatever I want to be and whatever I feel at a given time.
Okay.
And I feel like in other places, and especially when I was back in Ohio, that wasn't always the case, and that I had to play these certain roles in order to survive, essentially.
Okay. And what do you mean in order to survive?
Like for instance, in school, in the inner city, it was one of those things where like I was in such conflict with other students because like I didn't behave in the stereotypical way that was expected of me. Probably my entire like educational career. Like a lot of the kids always expected, everyone wants to play basketball, everyone wants to be part of a gang or a thug or something of that nature. Education was only for white people, and the way that I sounded wasn't appropriate either, and that I was considered like uppity. So a lot of the times I was always in conflict. Always in conflict.
Gotcha.
And it's nice, as an adult, when you can meet people that are like you, and you can meet people that accept you for however you are.
Right.
But I know that in order to have survived, that I had to play certain roles, and that, there were times where I had advice from my father that, like, especially when it comes to language, to approach approach situations and meet people where they are on that level.
Okay.
And don't try to go above their heads with the grammar and the diction and the big words and stuff like that. And because you're not going to be accessible, you're not going to be able to be connected with.
Okay. So just talking to somebody on the level that they understand you at, instead of going over their head.
Yeah, because I always felt like I had to prove something, and so it was refreshing.
What did you feel like you had to prove?
Well,
to be accepted?
Yeah, and a huge thing was like that blackness thing, because now in the day and age that we are, like if you have a little bit of tinge, then you tend to be able to relate in some way to the struggle that's happening in the streets today. But back when I was a youth, those things were happening, but there was already an issue within the community about like gradients and like being light-skinned or dark-skinned and things like that like I didn't understand because I didn't even know that was part of my identity until much later.
Gotcha.
So I'm freshly exploring these things while at the same time being treated like an outsider because I wasn't black enough. And so there was always that like thing to prove, like, hey, you know, I'm here too, and I see what's happening. I acknowledge that, you know, there is a struggle, there is violence, there is discrimination, and that I do experience these things too. But unfortunately, even as I experienced those things as a child, I didn't know that was what was happening because it wasn't part of my identity.
You internalized it and didn't know any better.
And I honestly, and it was like an inside joke that I wasn't a part of. So just because I didn't know I was black doesn't mean that I wasn't what other people identified me as. And so I found it fascinating, and that's probably why I got into like sociology in the first place, was just kind of exploring cultures and exploring how these interactions happen. Right. But yeah, it, like I said, it was a lot of duality. Right. Where it's like, I want to learn more, I want to be involved more, I want to connect more, but at the same time, I'm getting pushed away. Right.
Okay. So the people that you were connecting or trying to connect with is the African American community that you wanted to be a part of, and that's half of your own identity, but those people were not accepting of you just based on how you look and not seeing you for who you really are.
Yep.
So does that sound accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it only got worse.
Really?
Yeah. I came out to my parents and my family at like 15. Okay. So
what do you identify as in terms of sexuality?
At this point, it's more like a pan, because I'm open-minded to people's genders, and I look at people at a level of who they are and the content of their character rather than their physical attributes.
Okay, so you're pansexual.
Yeah.
Okay. And you said you came out to your family at what?
At like 15.
Okay.
And at the time I felt like there was only one or the other, and that you know, well, again, that was a sign of the times. Yeah. Today there's so many different different types of identities and sexuality and LGBTQ plus.
Yeah. There's the whole alphabet.
I'm sure I'm missing some.
Yeah. It's like I's in there, A's in there.
At the time, I was under the impression that, you know, there was like maybe 3 settings, and it was like gay, straight, something in between, bi. So
I like how you said that there's different settings on the meter.
Yeah, well, I always thought that it was a spectrum, because I've met people that may have different behaviors that people would assume to put into a category, but that's not true for them. Yeah. Okay. And that's even reference to like masculinity and femininity. Like there are effeminate straight men, you know, there are masculine gay men, and women. So with all of that being said, at the time I was very limited with my world concept of what's out there. Okay. So at 15, I already knew what was happening and what was going on, and I already had a inner conflict about it, because like I was raised Catholic and with a racist family, so it was like I didn't expect much acceptance from just about anybody.
Yeah, yeah.
But I felt like at some point I'm going to have to live authentically, however long that is.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm glad that you said that, live authentically, because at the end of the day, no matter what you are, no matter who you are, you should always be yourself. And that can be difficult in a society that, wants to put labels on you, wants you to be a certain way, but you being yourself, however that means, is the best way to live life.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I feel like that's a privilege that not everybody has the opportunity of doing. Because, I mean, there are parts of the world that just, it's simply not acceptable.
Right.
And some of those parts are here in America.
Right.
And so, one of the things I always imagine, I guess, is that there will be people in the world and in my life that, regardless of my actions and who I am as a person, they're not going to like by default. Whether that's my shade, my orientation, my line of work, whatever the case may be, there are going to be, beyond my control, people's reactions to me.
Right. And you got to learn to just live with that and accept it for, like, you can't control everybody. You can't change how people think about you. So just fuck it.
So do your best. Do the best you can. Try not to harm other people. Good to go.
Yeah, yeah. So you talked a little bit about, so what do you do for work? And what have you done for work?
So currently I work security.
Okay.
That is probably not the best use of my skill set.
Okay.
Previously I was a social worker for a jail, and before that a caseworker for the criminally insane.
Okay.
Those were like my pride and joy of jobs. So anytime anyone ever asks, like, what's your favorite job, or like, what are you proud of the most?
Right.
It would be those two.
Okay. And why are you so proud of those jobs?
Because ultimately I feel like the task at hand was monumentally difficult, but extremely necessary.
Okay.
I feel like the opportunities I had to interact with people and frame their lives in such a way to allow them to progress and allow them to heal from wounds was incredible, regardless of their background.
Right, right.
And I think that was the biggest point, is that as long as they are alive and as long as they're within, my range, I'm going to try to make sure that people feel valued. And that no matter what they're doing in their life or what their experiences are, that they're valid.
Okay. How would you say you can help someone feel valued in their life?
I think even listening to them on the most basic level.
Yeah.
A lot of times when it came to individuals that are like wrapped up in the justice system, especially,
right,
like their voices are taken. Not only are their voices taken, but their experiences are invalidated by their actions. And so to give them validation and give them an opportunity to try to piece together their life, what is incredibly important, because the whole system itself was geared towards just disenfranchisement.
So taking people and giving them their voice back.
Yeah, and empowerment. And I tried, because it comes down to the like basic needs first, like getting clothes on your back, getting food in your tummy, finding somewhere safe to be, and then being able to work on yourself and have someone to bounce ideas off of, have someone that's not going to invalidate you because of your background or your opinions on things. Because I mean, when you lose touch with reality, sometimes you never get it quite back.
Right.
And so some of the things can come off the wall, but it's still that person's reality.
Right. That's
like,
how they think.
Yeah. And I'm not going to sit there and like try to fight them on that and try to fit them back into the mold of society.
Right. And
I think that was an important approach and an important way of being present in their lives.
Okay.
And
sorry, go ahead.
I ultimately felt like that was a therapeutic approach.
Right. So one thing that you talked about was that you liked people talk about their feelings and stuff. One thing that we talked about was mental health, and both you have experienced it personally. I've experienced it personally. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you've gone through in terms of mental health?
Yes. So, like, I don't want to say it like every mental health worker and every
Right.
person, but like, by and large, most of us have seen some stuff or experienced some things that allow us to have context of why we're able to help. For me, I've had post-traumatic stress since I was a child.
Okay.
It was really based on childhood, a lot of neglect and a lot of abuse, and really just ultimately attempting to survive. And it had weighed on me and had modified my ability to connect with other human beings.
Okay.
And especially trust as well. And so it had taken years, if not decades, to get to a point where I am today.
Right. So you suffer from PTSD?
Yes.
Okay.
So that involves having flashbacks, nightmares, triggers that can even lead up to like bouts of depression for weeks or not months.
Okay.
I've had anger issues before. I've had drinking issues before, and I have struggled to try to make sense of a lot of things before treatment and before I even went to get diagnosed. Like, I didn't get diagnosed until I was probably like my early 20s.
Okay.
But I've had these experiences as far back as I can remember.
Right.
I just never knew what it was.
Okay. And how old are you now?
I am 34.
34. Okay. So you've seen some life.
Yes.
Okay.
I have seen some great portions of life as well. Like, I did have a pretty awesome support system in Ohio that had it not been for that support system, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
And yeah, so I've had like a really strong like frame to try to get through, and I've was presented with a safe environment to really open up and figure these things out.
Right. So one thing I guess that we talked about is like medication. So let's talk a little bit about that. You know, you said you're getting
Duality. That's the duality.
Okay.
Because as a professional and as helping folks that had like schizophrenia or bipolar or depression, like there was a very real like cause and effect where you can see when a person's on medication and when they're not.
Okay.
Like, it's clear as day.
Okay.
Unfortunately, when it's you, the person, you may not see that. In our group or in the organization I was a part of, we made a reference to it as called insight. And insight is basically the ability to notice your own symptoms and notice your own experiences. And not everyone has that, and not everyone is able to pick up on the changes.
Okay.
So with medication, it's never, I seldomly have ever seen it where like, take this pill, they take the pill. Oh, all symptoms are gone. They're good to go.
Right.
Most of the time it's a lot of trial and error because not every pill is for every person and not every treatment is for every person. In my personal life, it was the same thing.
Right.
Where I had gone through different medication trials, and some of them worked well for a little while and then stopped. And then other ones had like really horrible interactions. I've had ones that had even made me worse at some point. But I think a lot of things that helped through those whole processes was remaining engaged with treatment. Where like I tell my doctor like, hey, this ain't working. Or I also told my therapist. So I also had therapy as well as medication as like a combo.
Right.
And I think that was the best route for me. I think of it the same way people think of like diet and exercises.
It's just something that you need to do in order for your body to get better.
Yeah, but if you just do one, it may not be effective as if you did both.
Right. Yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. I'm currently doing therapy. taking my medications, and thankfully, what they first gave me at the hospital works, and I've been doing okay. I mean, you see me, like, I'm functioning, I'm still alive, so all that's good news. Yeah, exactly. 2 thumbs up. But I guess one thing I wanted to ask you about, you said you struggled with alcohol before?
Yes.
Do you mind telling me a little bit about that?
There was a time. So, like I said, I had a pretty good support system. Like I was with a guy for about 10 years.
Okay. And this was your
My now ex-husband, but like he had been in my life since I was like 19.
Okay.
And so he watched me go through a lot of these struggles. And there was a time where like I was taking medication, going to counseling, but also drinking, which was making pretty much not like.
So you were on medications while you were drinking?
Yes.
And you're not supposed to mix alcohol?
No, you are
meds.
not.
Yeah, yeah.
So
what kind of reactions were you getting from that?
I was getting out of hand. Like I was making impulsive decisions and pretty much were doing things that were outside of like my normal personality, what I normally would do. And it was really just like, and really throwing caution to the wind, essentially. It was just not a good look. But
what type of irrational behavior were you displaying?
Like there was a time where I actually went out with my best friend and my husband at the time and started drinking, and then like talked to one of my buddies on the phone and was like, oh, you want to hang out? Cool. Well, you know, it's not that far from here. I can go meet you. Yeah. And I literally just like dipped from hanging out with them at the bar.
Right. Okay.
And I ended up like waking up at my friend's house with like no concept, just like, okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think for me, probably. So how much? Sorry. You okay?
Yeah.
So do you drink now, or are you sober?
I drink on occasion.
Okay.
I just am a lot more responsible, I guess, because it's not something that like, it's not something I seek out anymore.
Yeah.
I try to kind of keep an even keel in regards to like substances in my body, because I really relish the fact that my life is well within my own control. Okay. And I think that now that I have that, I don't want to jeopardize that.
So having freedom to do what you want.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Ironically, having freedom to do what I want makes me want to be more responsible.
Right. No, I'm right there with you, man. Because after I got out of the hospital, I felt very appreciative and grateful for all the things I got back. My ability to, use my own deodorant, use my own body wash to shower, not have people check up on you every fucking 15 minutes.
Isn't it like crazy, like the stuff that we take for granted?
Yeah.
Because that was the kind of stuff that, like, when I was working with my clients, like watching them go through those things where, like, they might have been in a group home or in the hospital or in a jail setting. It's like not having control of stuff like that. Yeah. And once you get to a point where you have that freedom, like, it is glorious to see a person be able to be themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, do you believe that there's a purpose in life? It's a tough question.
Yes and no.
Okay.
So, yes, I believe we can find purpose for ourselves in what we do, and some people will find, what religious folks call a calling. Okay. Like, I feel like I have watched people have a calling and find things that are within their toolkit or within their specialization. Fantastic. Is it something that's engineered or like baked into reality? I don't think so. I don't think that there's like a force pushing people towards those things. Right. As much as it's just
a natural inclination.
Yeah. Because I feel like we all can feel when we're not being authentic and that when we're not and where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like when you're in a job that like isn't satisfying, or say you're writing something and it's like not really vibing for you, but like sometimes you can be blocked in your creative processes, but other times it's not the right medium for you.
Right.
And I think that once you find that click, totally different story. But I don't think it's a mandated thing. I don't think that like everyone is born with like something that they must do.
So it's not like a predestined thing. It's just more so like a natural evolution and flow of how life goes.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that your life has a purpose, or what do you think you're meant to do?
Well, that's actually what I am struggling with now, like this very day.
Okay.
For a long time, and even going through school and working as a case manager and a social worker, I thought that was my calling, and that's what I wanted to do, is like support people with mental illness and people that are connected with the jail system.
Right.
And I guess, for lack of a better term, be that rebel that grants them actual like light in such dark places.
Right.
And I felt that was a great use of my time and a great skill set for me. But as I am myself, a person that needs to care for myself more when it comes to mental health,
right,
I feel like I may not have the capacity to do both.
Okay, to help others and to help yourself.
I feel like a lot of that time that I spent there was a lot of sacrifice for myself, to be able to set myself aside to help others.
Right.
And unfortunately, I think that catches up with you. Some people say it's like burnout, when like you can't do it anymore because it's just so stressful. But for me, I'm like, I want to do it more.
Right.
I feel like that would be a purpose for me.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the same capacity, but in some capacity, I feel it's important to support mental health.
Okay.
So I think that's my purpose. My purpose is to help people with mental health, whether that's directly or even through this.
Yeah, yeah.
And just letting them know that it's like, it's okay.
It happens, exactly. And that's the thing, like, I could have easily shied away from talking about what I have, which is bipolar disorder, or I can do what I'm doing right now, which is be upfront about it, be honest with people, and especially be honest with yourself. Because at the end of the day, you can bullshit other people, but you can't bullshit yourself.
I mean, yeah, I think that's one of the hardest things, is actually to look in the mirror and be like, this is me.
Yeah.
You know? And some people, it takes longer to actually get to that point where you can look at yourself and go, hey, there's something up.
Yeah.
I feel like that is what moves people closer to that purpose, you know?
Yeah.
The more that you look inside and know yourself, the more of yourself you are, the more in line you will be with your calling or what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and kind of like you mentioned, I think right now my purpose, or like my calling, is to shed a different light on mental health and show that, you know, things may seem one way just based on how you see it from the outside, but at the end of the day, my mental breakdown was what I call a large-scale temper tantrum. It's essentially when you're like a little kid and you get all fussy and pissed off.
You can't take no more. Like, it was just that.
Exactly. Something crosses the line, and then you just lose your shit and you act like a little 5-year-old kid. And that's exactly what happened to me.
Which I have seen quite a few times.
Like grown-ass men and women.
Yes.
Just, you know, acting like a little kid that didn't get their favorite toy or their Happy Meal or whatever the fuck it is.
But you make it sound so petty, but it's not, because it's like a culmination.
Right.
Like, it is not just that day something didn't go your way.
Yeah.
It was like years and years of things.
Right.
And I don't think that anyone just like, I don't believe in snapping. I don't think that people just snap or people just break.
What do you believe in then?
I think that people have a lot more elasticity than they know they do.
Right.
But there is a finite amount of stretching you can do.
Yeah.
And when you mix in, especially in both my personal and professional experience, when you mix in substances
Yep.
and environments that aren't conducive to who you are and what you want to be, when you feel like you're trapped, when you're trapped, and substances and stressors, and then you have a day where you don't feel like there's anybody you can turn to, it just stretching you longer and longer and longer.
Right. No, that's actually very accurate, because like you said, what I went through was exactly the same thing. I had multiple things go wrong in a very short amount of time. I was abusing alcohol as a substance, and then also also the childhood was, something that when I struggled with, because my mom was bipolar as well. And so seeing her go through episodes time and time again, police being called to the house, things like that, and it was all bad. But
trust me, I can relate.
I lost my shit, and to me, it's sad that it had to go down that way. But I'm trying to learn from it and trying to deal with it as best as I can.
I think that can make someone great. Like, hands down, like, some of the clients I had were some of the best human beings I have ever seen on this planet. And despite their past and despite their experiences, what they learned from the badness, I guess, and how they grew from that and how they tried to move forward from that, I mean, that level of resilience and that level of creativity and just spirit.
Yeah, it's resilience. That's really what it is. It's determination, perseverance, and resilience.
But like, when you don't have anything against you, when you don't have any boundaries or barriers, then it's hard to find that inside yourself. And so some people have to wait until something bad happens. Some people have to wait until a bankruptcy, or they lose their job, or divorce, or something to force them to stand up on their own. Right. And it's great when you have supports. It's great when you have people to help you navigate those challenges. But I can say that sometimes what comes from within you, good and bad, kind of a Pandora's box, but it can become something fantastic. Yeah, okay. And hopefully, this podcast is going to help somebody figure out that, whatever they're going through is okay, and that they can be honest and open, and even reach out to us if that's what you guys want. So that actually leads me to the quote. I'll go ahead and share mine first, because I don't know if you're ready for it. I'm ready.
But so one thing that you said was everything bad has to go wrong for some good to come out of it, and that's sort of the same thing as what the quote that I have written down. When everything seems to be going against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind and not with it. Quote from Henry Ford, one of the most remarkable inventors and pioneers of the automobile industry.
I like that.
Yeah. Do you have a quote that you want to share?
Yes, but it's actually the one that's on my bracelet that
Okay.
one of my roommates had given me when I was talking to him about my struggle with connecting with other people.
Okay.
And it's just simply, you are enough. And I wear this bracelet, and I wear it facing myself so that I can see it on a regular basis, because I think that we forget that. That when we're all trying to fit into these boxes and fit into these molds and find our place in the world where we are directed, sometimes when we don't meet that, we feel very disappointed within ourselves. And I just feel like that's a fantastic quote, that you are enough. Yeah, so that actually reminds me, I have a t-shirt and I want to show it to you because it's in my car. But basically on the front it says good enough, and on the back it says accept yourself as good enough. Nice. Accept yourself as enough. And so that's really what it is. It's like, no matter what, you just got to accept yourself, right? And so one thing that you talked about is that you have a difficulty connecting with others. And right now I kind of feel the same way in a sense, because no matter where I go, I feel like I'm out of place. I feel like I don't belong
with one certain group of people because of one thing. I feel like I don't belong in another place because of another thing, and so the only place I belong is with other mental health patients. You know what I'm saying? Because
that's the same thing people always say about like AA and stuff, where it's just like you can't interact with the regular world, only AA people, because they know your struggle.
Yeah.
And is it also the same thing that like sometimes with the gay community, it's like that too, where it's like, you know, unless you're in the community, you don't get it.
Right.
And I don't. I have to respectfully disagree.
Okay.
I think that we can connect with other people outside of mental health because it's a thing called empathy. And I know it's in rare supply these days.
Right.
And the current climate doesn't seem like, you know, empathy's out there, but I promise you it is.
Yeah.
I promise you that there are people out there that accept you for who you are and what you're doing and what you think in different ways, and you don't need to hop onto social media to find it.
Yeah.
When you're out in the world, there will be people that are in peace with themselves and able to grant you peace too. But I understand. I understand exactly what you're talking about because for a time I felt the same way, where I'm just like, you know, like with PTSD and everything, like unless people have had like a dark or like abused childhood, I always felt like people that had like regular like two parents and all that stuff would just be like, look at me like I'm crazy.
Right.
But it's not the case. I know I come from a different background, but like I said, it's the duality. Like, yeah, sometimes I do feel like an outsider, and even within the gay community, Black community, Hispanic community, all of those. But in a way, I feel like I have to like assert myself because like I don't think anyone's gonna throw a parade or welcome any party. I think that's one of those like you got to get in there and you got to get involved.
Yeah. So I guess to close off, do you have a song that you'd like to share?
Sure. Let me see.
Just what's the name of it?
It is from a band called Gunship.
Gunship? I think that's the one you sent me, right?
Probably.
Yeah. So what's the song called?
When You Grow Old, Your Heart Dies.
When You Grow Old, Your Heart Dies.
Yes.
By Gunship.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna write that down. So why do you want to share that song with the audience?
Because it has a bit of nostalgia for if you listen to like, you know, EDM, like 80s synth pop wave stuff. So it sounds great.
Right.
But the lyrics themselves talk about how the world becomes more complex the longer you're here, and how, you know, heartbreak is inevitable. But it also has an uplifting message of you're not alone, and that, you know, I think one of the quotes on it is, it's a bad day, not a bad life. And how things can seem really like huge and crazy for a time, but you know, this too shall pass, and that there will be more life to live, and enjoyable life to live. And I think that's a huge thing that, you know, when we're in the trenches, we just get so inundated that we can't see past our noses.
Yeah, you get caught up with all the bullshit, and you think that that's ultimately what all of life is going to be, but you don't see, you know, you see the rain for the rain, but you don't see the beautiful flowers that are going to grow out of it.
Yeah. Or you're sitting there, you know, freaking out in your room, but like, there's Disneyland and, you know, cool stuff in the world.
Yeah.
You know, there's cool places to see, and there's cool people in the world too, and that there might be people struggling like you are. So I don't think we're ever alone.
I think it's not that there might be people struggling like you are. It's
there are.
There's always somebody struggling with the same level, if not worse, than whatever you're going through. And we're never going to know about it if we don't talk about it, right?
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what this is about. Is about talking about the problems that you're going through and trying to figure out, okay, maybe I haven't gone through that myself, but I know someone else that has. And, you know, that's how you make connections. That's how you connect with people and move on from it.
Yeah. Not to mention pro tips.
Pro tips?
Yeah, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Some people have gone through similar things. They know how to navigate.
Yeah.
You know?
So out of all the challenges and things that we've talked about, which one do you identify with the most?
What's the biggest challenge?
Like what? So what do you identify yourself as?
I always say that I'm in flux. Like
Okay.
I'm always that it's that duality. I'm always changing. I'm always
You're like
a
chameleon,
crystal,
like a chameleon,
a chameleon, like a crystal, multifaceted. I'm a lot.
like a
That's at the end of the day. I'm a lot of things.
Okay.
You know.
And we all are a lot of things. It's just what we choose to be the biggest thing that drives our identity. So that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I
It's
try
like
to be helpful. I think that's my biggest thing. Is like I try to be helpful as best I can.
Okay.
And if that's like being there for somebody, if that's being annoying to somebody, or just like reminding them that they're not by themselves, you know. But I think that's my biggest thing. Like blackness comes in handy sometimes, and sometimes it can kind of suck.
Yeah, especially when the cops are involved.
But being Hispanic and being gay, bi, whatever, pan, like all of those things, like they help me connect with people, but then they also become barriers to others.
Right.
But I still think that like putting myself out there and trying to support people is what is going to be key for me.
So you think helping others is what drives your identity?
Yeah, I think that that's how I will connect with people.
By helping them. Okay. And so one thing that I talked about was our identity really changes based on our environment. So what, like here in DC, you identify as one thing, but you know back in Cleveland or in Texas or you know this and that, your identity might change based on your surroundings. Do you think that's accurate?
Code switching is far beyond just language. I mean, for example, like I love wearing kilts. Like that's I normally.
You're talking about like the Irish.
Yeah, the Irish, Scottish.
Like skirts.
Yes,
if
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay.
For those that don't know what a kilt is, I'm sure Google.
Do you have one?
Yeah, I have quite a few, quite a collection.
Okay.
I have some traditional ones. I have like a rainbow one. I have all kinds, but it's not something that I can just wear in mixed company because it's too much of a dialogue about it, as much as it's just like it's comfortable.
Okay, so what got you into that? Like, because it's a very specific type of clothing. So
it is.
When's the first time that you got introduced to wearing a what is it called?
A kilt.
A kilt. I was gonna say quilt for a second.
Wear those too when it's cold. But I came across a store in Cleveland, like in the arcade, that sold kilts, and I was intrigued, and so I went in there and I decided, and the dude was really cool, so I tried one on, and I'm like, I like this, and I think at some point I came back, and I started to get to know the owners, and I asked them if I could be a model, and they said yes.
Really?
And so then I just started to model for them, and that was pretty much like, it was it for me. I'm like, yeah, I like this.
Yeah. So how many kilts do you have?
Probably like 5.
5 of them?
Yeah.
How often do you wear them?
Probably fairly regularly, like weekly.
Okay.
Again, it's just...
It's a comfortable thing?
I feel like there had been a pendulum shift or a pendulum swing since last year.
Right.
And so I guess there was a time where I was much more naive about the level of hatred out in the world.
Right.
And so I don't feel as safe being myself outside.
Okay.
So I wear them comfortably indoors and stuff if I'm going to specific events that are like maybe LGBT events or like an Irish cultural festival or a Scottish cultural festival, sure. But hopping on the metro and going like to a national mall or something,
you're not gonna wear it then.
I will if I'm with like people that I feel safe with,
comfortable with.
but in like mixed company or when upon my arrival, what type of interactions I have,
right?
It really determines that.
Yeah, and I can't relate to you 100%, but recently, like my cousin got married, so I was dressed up in like cultural and traditional clothing, and so I thought I would feel out of place being surrounded by people wearing like American clothes and stuff like that, and I was surrounded by that. But the cool thing is, like my friend hyped me up, and he was like, "Oh, I see you. You know, you got the blue shalwar kameez and all that."
Yeah.
So it was good. So it's sometimes basically what I was trying to go with that is sometimes it's better to stand out. You know what I mean?
It is. I just I feel like I'm getting back to a point where I'll be more comfortable, and as it warms up and stuff, I might just be like, hey, whatever, I'm me.
Yeah.
And it comes back down to like when I was a kid and I had that like actual decision in my head that like regardless of who I am, people are not going to like certain things.
Right.
So I might as well just freaking go with it.
Just own yourself and just be who you want to be.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's all you got is yourself.
Yeah.
Yep. Me, myself, and I are my closest friends.
But it does help to have more.
Yeah.
And I think that has... I've been blessed that in whatever phase of my life I'm in and whatever struggles I have, I've always had people that had my back. I might not have asked for help, and I think that was the biggest problem for me.
Right.
Is I feel like I could have done better.
Right.
Had I opened my mouth and actually asked for help.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this until probably a couple of days ago. I was talking to one of my buddies about it, but like that is a huge thing.
Communication.
Yeah. So like there was times where I felt alone and I felt isolated and I felt like nobody really cared and it didn't matter if I was in Ohio or Texas or here.
Right.
And in a positive way, it's what got me here is that I felt like I could like no one's gonna miss me, so I'm gonna go and like try to do the best I can. And if I like fail miserably, that no one's gonna pick up on that. But at the same time, I just realized that like they could have had my back. They could have been there for me had I said something.
Right.
You know,
talking about it is the hardest thing and the biggest barrier that we try to think. We try to condition ourselves to think that no one's gonna understand, or no one's gonna be there for you. No one's gonna sympathize or empathize. When in reality, if you open your fucking mouth, someone's gonna listen.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna listen.
And I learned that moving here, and I learned that living with my roommates that I have now. Like they've become really great friends for me and a great source of support. Like I had a recent death in a family, and
I'm sorry to hear that.
They went with me. They went with me back to Ohio.
Okay.
And that made a huge difference. And just having to be able to handle that.
Yeah. Who was it in your family?
It was my aunt. My aunt Dee. She was there for me, regardless of what I was going through.
Yeah. So this was a close family member that passed.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that.
I am too, but the reality of the matter is I know that like these things happen, that we do lose people in our lives, and it's so important to connect with people while they're here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like I don't regret the time that I spent with her, and I don't regret not having enough time, because ultimately we were together when we were supposed to be, and I will miss her. And I appreciate the opportunity for her to be in my life. Yeah.
Every single moment you gotta cherish with your loved ones, because you never know when it's gonna be your last.
And that's why also you have to like break out of that isolation. You have to shake that off.
Yeah. And
put in the work to engage people.
Yeah. Instead of saying, "Oh, I thought about calling someone. I thought about texting someone."
I'll have more time.
Pick up the phone and just fucking do it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that actually reminds me of a story that happened a few weeks ago. One of my friends, her grandmother passed away, and she posted about it on Facebook. And she had like a very heartfelt story about how she's afraid of thunderstorms, and her grandmother would be the one to help calm her down and get her through those tough times. And that really touched my heart. And immediately what I did was I went and called my grandmother, because God knows how many more days we have together with her. Not that she's, you know.
But you just don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like she's not, like she's healthy, thank God. But like you said, we don't know.
Yeah.
Could be today, could be tomorrow, it could be 10, 20 years from now, hopefully. You know, hopefully she gets to see me get married and all that good stuff if I decide to. That's one thing with society. It's like everybody pushing you, but you gotta do what you want to.
Yeah, but you know what? They don't bother you after the first marriage. They'll tell you that.
Oh man, is that, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So yeah, I was with the same fella for a decade throughout my 20s, and we had some really great times. He was extremely supportive,
Yeah.
and really helped me like get my head on my shoulders correctly. And it was all the things that I missed out on growing up, like a supportive person,
right.
someone you can trust, someone
positive.
that you can, someone positive, someone you can count on, that like
Yeah.
you can call at any
Right.
given time.
Right.
And it was like everything that I needed to actually live, you know, and not just survive, but actually live.
Yeah. What I call it is surviving and then thriving.
Yes.
So thriving is something that not a lot of people do. We kind of just survive and go on our day-to-day life and just, you know, do what we have to do to get by, versus thriving and doing what we enjoy and, you know, what really makes the difference.
And I think that was, if it wasn't for that environment that he created for me, I wouldn't have been able to go to school and finish school, or have the opportunity to be a social worker or be a case manager.
Right.
Because I needed that balance.
Yeah.
Like when I'm dealing with other people's darkest hour, it was really hard. But to come home and have a safe place and a safe person to rely on made all the difference, and was allowed me to get up that next day and be like, let's face some more, let's do some more. But it also wears on people. And I had a slew of my own issues, and I didn't start treatment until I was in my early 20s. And so he watched me through pretty much every one of those stages of healing. He saw all the ugly, all the messed up and everything, and he faced it all with me. But
that's beautiful.
I feel like at some point it just kind of became too much. And also when you are looking at your future and you have these goals in mind, I feel like I had shifted myself, and then I did a lot of these things to fit the mold that I felt he needed as a partner.
Right.
And not necessarily me. But I just felt like I was filling a role.
Okay.
And I think that over time it became more and more apparent that was the case. And that, you know, like in regards to kids and some of the like big milestones or things that he wanted to see and the things that I wanted to see were different.
Right. So it was just a difference of you know, opinion or what you wanted out of life.
Yeah. And I think that personally I feel like it was he had seen too much, because I think there comes a time when like
shit just hits the fan.
And you see that time and time again. You're gonna assume and expect that that's gonna be forevermore, because mental health isn't something that is like cured. It's not like a bacteria where you can just
away.
like
it doesn't go away. That's just there.
Yeah, and it's something that you have to monitor and that you have to deal with, and that there will be episodes. Period. No matter how much you take care of yourself, there will be episodes.
Yeah. Like things will happen in life that will cause you to have the ups and downs that you naturally do.
And it's great when you have people there that can help you navigate it. But I think that in regards to having children, that I don't think that either one of us really wanted that.
Yeah, like, you didn't want to put them in that environment.
And so it was things like that just like kind of canceled it out. We saw it, and we saw it mutually, essentially. So I feel like like at the end of the relationship and the subsequent divorce wasn't like the stereotypical like messy, we hate each other, blah blah blah, we're gonna take each other for what all we have and all that stuff you see on TV.
Yeah.
It just came down to we can't continue this path because this path doesn't really lead anywhere.
Right. Okay.
So we will diverge.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still in my life. Like we literally play video games on occasion together. Like it's not a big thing.
Like you guys have kept a healthy relationship past the divorce.
Yes.
Okay.
Because of the relationship we had and the level of support I received from him, I felt that I wanted to be more independent in that regards.
Right.
And so when it came to the loss of my aunt, for example, I didn't include him because I wanted to rely on the support system I've established and built and rely on myself and not continue to pull him into drama or to challenges.
To just kind of let him live his life and you live your own.
And to move forward in a healthy and happy manner, as I am trying to do. So I don't regret any of that experience, and I feel like it was a fantastic experience.
Yeah. It got you to where you are now, right?
Yes.
Everything that we've gone through in our past ultimately has led us to our present, and you can choose to be happy about it, which we're trying to do, or you can sulk and, be sad about whatever the fuck you're going through.
I mean, there's enough time in life to do both.
Yeah.
Like,
that's true.
If you want to sulk for 5 to 7 years, more power to you.
Yeah.
But
I just want to skip that phase. And
let's fast forward to the
happy parts.
When we look back and we're like, wow, that was garbage.
Yeah.
Glad we're not doing that no more.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, look how far we've come and seeing the highs, the lows, and everything in the middle.
I feel like that's so important to do all the time.
Yeah.
Not just like, big accomplishments like I finally paid off my car. No, I feel like there should be times in your life when you pause and you think about where you were and where you are. And no, you may not be where you want to be.
Yeah.
But you have to acknowledge the fact that you ain't back there.
Yeah, exactly. So that's actually something that I saw one time where it was like, you may not be where you want to be, but thank God you're not where you used to be.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, one last topic we'll cover is about religion and about God. I know this is something that not a lot of people like talking about.
Yeah, it's a sore topic, much like pay.
Yeah. No one wants to bring it up, but we're doing this stuff.
But we gonna do it anyways.
Exactly. So, do you believe in God?
No.
Okay.
I believe in his followers.
Okay.
So, and not just God, the Christian God. I believe in everybody's followers because at the end of the day, regardless of if there is an actual deity or an actual entity at play, the followers are at play. And their faith and what they feel is necessary as their actions are reality enough. When you can justify killing another person, it doesn't matter if somebody's watching or not. It's the reality is whatever you believe in is real enough for you to impact other people's reality.
Right.
And the same thing, like you don't want to like bake a cake or you don't want this person in your house. The same thing with racism is just as real. Like you don't need a God to tell you to do that. It's a matter of behavior. And so religion can be used for great things and to organize people and to support people even if they're not in that community.
Right.
That was one of the things that like when I grew up Catholic, that was an undertone of it was to always help the poor.
Right.
Regardless that, the church itself and us in the community were all poor.
Yeah.
Which translated to us helping each other out. But it was there, you know?
Yeah.
Helping the sick and caring what happens to people. And so there's a lot of tenets to a lot of religions that are helpful and integral to keeping a society together and to keeping people together. There's huge cultural identities that are thousands of years old that I find are beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Like you mentioned, going to the wedding
Mm-hmm.
and having special, dope looking threads for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's things like that where like I may not know about it, but
Mm-hmm.
there is a rich history and culture behind that.
Right.
And I think every religion should have that component
Mm-hmm.
of helpfulness and culture.
Right.
But I can't be naive in not acknowledging the fact that it also had led to genocide and it had led to
Lots of wars and lots of, the Crusades and all that.
most wars.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, it goes hand in hand. But like the deities themselves, they could have been around and even have left.
Mm-hmm.
But the impact that their followers have is much greater in reality.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I think we'll close there. Is there anything else you wanted to mention or talk about?
No, man, we covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically it. Because at the end of the day, what we're covering is you, right? I want the audience in each episode to learn about the guest and to know the guest, even if they've never said hi to them, and know basically what you've gone through, where you are now, and where are you headed? What are your goals?
I'm still working on me. I'm still working on figuring out exactly what I'm going to do for a living. Because security isn't... It's great to keep people safe. It's even better to make them feel safe in their own lives, which I think is more deeper and more complicated than sitting around making sure nothing bad happens.
Okay.
So I feel like I need to find something that is that is more supportive.
Okay.
But and same thing with relationships, and I haven't really had a chance to go out into the world and meet people. So now that I'm vaccinated, I'm like, let's slowly put our toes out there and try to see what's going on and try to connect with people. I think that's huge goals for me. So being in a place where I can support people and also have a good network of folks.
Yeah, so helping others and also helping yourself. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah,
okay.
By connecting with others.
Yeah.
Because it helps.
Yeah.
It has always helped.
It helps you feel not alone and part of a community. And I think that's something I'm trying to find, is a community to belong to. So before we go, I know you said the song that you mentioned is When You Grow Old, Your Heart Dies.
Yep. By
Gunship. The song that I wanted to mention is called Black Jesus by Tone Trump. And it's a rapper out of West Philadelphia. And coincidentally enough, this rapper, he's Muslim. And so, we'll play the song after the video. But it's a pretty cool song. I like it. He takes the hook from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Of course he does.
West Philadelphia, born and raised. On the playground is where I spend most of my days. And so, I like that, obviously. And it's a catchy song. So I think, like you said, we covered a lot. Mental health, being, pansexual, being mixed race with half black, half Puerto Rican, a whole bunch of everything in the middle. I think the coolest part about your identity is the kilt thing, because I never would have guessed that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and part of it was like...
Can you pull one out?
Yeah, sure.
I want to see it. I'm not gonna have you try it on or nothing. But I want to see it.
No, but let me see here. All right. There you go. See?
Is this like a...
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I didn't know they came in camo green like that.
These are modern.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
modern ones, because this actually has pockets.
Yeah, it's like the G.I. Joe.
Yeah,
the G.I. Joe version.
Have pockets.
Yeah.
This is probably the ones that you would expect.
Yeah, there you go.
This is, yeah.
You got the plaid. Show the camera.
Yeah.
So these are the kilts that Augy wears for daily leisure wear.
Daily leisure wear, outerwear.
Yeah, underwear.
Nope.
All of the above. That's pretty cool though.
But yeah, the pattern is called a tartan.
Okay, you said you got them from Cleveland?
Yep.
Okay, and it's called a tartan?
Yeah. The pattern is... So, patterns usually are connected to families. And so, like, we're going to call them the McLeans, for example. So, McLean would have, like, a green pattern with different stripes and stuff, and that was that family's pattern. So
Gotcha.
in your heritage, you come down.
It passes down through the generations.
So this tartan in itself, this purple blue one, is actually called the Pride of Scotland.
Okay.
And so it's for anybody who isn't directly in a lineage.
Okay.
So that's why I'm able to wear it, because it's
Yeah.
not like I'm
And
representing some different wrong
No,
family.
no, no. And it matches your beanie too, because you got the black and purple up top.
My
So-
favorite colors are Mardi Gras.
Oh, really?
So
Green.
gold, green, purple.
Okay. Okay. Have you ever been to Mardi Gras? Or do you want to go?
Yeah, I definitely want to go. I've been to New Orleans before, but it was like in November,
Okay.
around Thanksgiving, and it was really, really nice.
Oh, really?
I loved it there.
Did you go last November?
No, it was years ago.
Okay,
It was years,
okay.
I think it was right after Katrina. Right
Okay.
after.
Okay. So I'm actually a New Orleans Saints fan.
Really?
And yeah, believe it or not. I've never been to the city. I really want to go sometime. And it sucks that now, like I have the money since I'm working, and because of COVID, like the city and everything's probably all shut down. But things are starting to open back up.
Just give it time. That's all I can really tell anybody is, like, I know it's stressful.
Yeah.
I know people feel like stuck and trapped and
Yeah.
isolated and fearful and all of these things.
Mhm.
But, like, this planet has been through quite a few plagues. This planet has been through quite a lot of upheaval.
Mhm.
And we pull through.
Yeah.
We lose people, and we need to acknowledge that. But for those of us that survive, we need to make it count.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Like you said, time is the ultimate resource, and with time, everything will change. Everything will get better.
And your savings account gets bigger.
Yeah.
And you get interest. Yeah. So, and then when you do go, then you could be like making it rain.
Yeah. No, I definitely want to go check out New Orleans at some point. It's on my bucket list.
Yes.
We'll see when it happens, but hopefully it's sooner than later.
So there in Cleveland, there is a large, like, Eastern European, like Hungarian, Polish
Mhm.
population.
Mhm.
And so there are, like, there's festivals there too.
Mhm.
I think before Mardi Gras and, like, Fat Tuesday, there's like another day
Mhm.
that they celebrate there, and they
Okay.
have, I think it's called, like, punchkis. I want to
Okay.
say it's punchkis,
Okay.
and they're like kind of like jelly-filled donuts, but they're like
Ooh.
something that you get like right before
Yeah.
you're supposed to do like Lent or something.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But they have like the punchki bowl, which
Yeah.
is a ball, which is like a festival and stuff. So
Mhm.
there's interesting festivals and celebrations happening throughout the world.
Yeah.
But like, Greyhound, Amtrak, planes, whatever. Like, if you have the means,
Yeah. Get out there and then
get
go
out
explore.
there.
Go
But
explore the world.
get vaccinated first, though.
Yeah. Get vaccinated. Alright, so, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
Actually, yeah, get vaccinated, please.
Yeah. You heard it from Augy. Go out there, get vaccinated. Make sure you stay away from COVID-19.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Good?
Yep.
Let's
Peace.
do. All right. Cool.